Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new here. I have found many ways to describe or explain what self-seduction is. The first way that I tried to describe it to you all is by telling you that you seduce yourself before you seduce another person, like a lover. You take care of yourself, you look nice, you develop a character, a persona, a performance even, a type of theater, but for yourself, never for another person first, for them only. And especially to do this for no reason other than your own self-respect and entertainment. It should never be to get something from somebody else, especially. It should never be transactional. As time progressed, and the more that I dug into the subject and tried to understand even what I wanted to mean by it, the subject bloomed for me. It became so much more than taking care of yourself. It became so much more than being feminine, being mysterious. It became about solitude. Isolation turned into self-knowledge, self-actualization, and of course, secrecy, mystique. And when I think of those things, I think about the worlds that we create for ourselves, the illusory worlds, the fantasy worlds, the worlds that don't exist, the worlds that we live in to protect ourselves. I myself have always, I think from a very young age, have known that reality was not for me in its entirety. I never wanted to live like normal people, and I have created worlds for myself. I've created fake people, fake scenarios in order to feel more at home, to feel like I was in proper company. And I have felt those created worlds, those worlds of fantasy and illusion, those self-made worlds had more importance to me than the real one. And a long time ago, I found out that there is actually a word for these created worlds, especially if they're very elaborate and they involve characters and laws and rules. And that word is a paracosm. It comes from the suffix para, meaning beside or abnormal, in conjunction with cosm, which comes from English, but then before that it came from cosmos, the Greek, which means universe. I literally, like on my back, there's another word to describe such place, and it's a demi-monde. I have that tattooed literally on my back. Demi-monde means half world. So you can see my obsession with this place in between, this place that you go to as a refuge, as a sanctum, a place where you feel at home. I'm obsessed with this idea because a place of your own creation is one where you feel that you belong, feel at home in. And I feel that so many artists and creative people have tried to bring that self-made world into the real world. That's like the greatest achievement. If the world is not hospitable to you, is not habitable to you, then you have to be the first person to take the step to make the world that way for yourself. You have to set the example. You have to be the one to stick your flag in the dirt and say, I'm making this. I don't care if anybody helps me. I don't care if the world accepts it. I'm going to try. So when it comes to a guideline of self-seduction, the first place you start is creating that world for yourself, is the paracosm. You ask yourself, where do I go when I go away from society, from reality? What does that place look like? It said that the first paracosms start within childhood, from the fount of our burgeoning imagination. But sometimes, as you have probably observed, we often mix our dreams whenever we are sleeping with our waking dreams. Our imagination when we are awake takes the baton a lot of the time from the dream world. And as you can imagine, all voyages depart from sleep, which is why I want to take a minute to talk about this video's sponsor, Helix. I don't really link up with sponsors a lot. I have long-term relationships with sponsors that I feel have something to offer you that isn't some frivolous, trendy, mass-produced merchandise. Sleep is a necessity that we are constantly undermining, I think. The way I see it, when you purchase a quality mattress, you're participating not only in something sustainable and healthy, but also something spiritual. Good sleep is not only something that your mind and body requires, but your soul needs it too. And the soul is the seat of the self. Sleep is a type of rest, and rest is something that our society is less and less familiar with. At all times of the day, we are bombarded by stimulus, we are doom scrolling, purchasing, there's an influx of world events, and there's less and less time for introspection and reverie, and just having a moment to stop that merry-go-round. I figure, what is easier to support than good sleep? A rest from all the images and ideas that are vying for your attention all day long, trying to keep you in this constant loop of movement. With Helix's sleep quiz, I was matched to the perfect mattress based on my body type and sleep preferences, which was their midnight mattress. On my Helix mattress, I sleep better, and so my life is enriched by a percentage every single day. In my dreams, I'm allowed to roam far away into myself, into my private world of dreams where I don't have to be bothered. It gives my soul a second to breathe. A good mattress, yeah, it's an investment. I support investments. It's a lot of money, sure, but that's what sustainability, comfort, and a unique product requires. It requires us allocating our earnings into less things, but for greater gain. And that's something we need to be constantly reminded of, that's a value. With Helix, when you buy a mattress, you have a 120-day sleep trial, you have a lifetime warranty, and you have free shipping to your house. That's part of the reason you invest in them. Helix supports sustainability in another way, for example. They have an excellent selection of mattress toppers. Sure, you can go out and you can buy another thing, but what if the mattress you have, you don't want to get rid of it? It's okay. Why would you throw it away? Your first instinct doesn't have to be to produce waste and discard what you have. There's the possibility to improve it, to repair it, like I would when I go to the cobbler and get my shoes resoled. I don't partner with anybody that doesn't have something meaningful to offer you or a deal to give you. So if you want to try out Helix, with my link or the QR code provided, you get access to Helix's Cyber Monday extended exclusive partner offer, which is 27% off site-wide until December 7th. So pop onto their website and see what they have. Don't miss out on that opportunity. If you maybe do not have a paracosm, if you never have created one for yourself, I would suggest doing that today. I would suggest taking the time to figure out what that world looks like for you, because a paracosm, like I said, is a world of refuge. It is a place that you go where no one else can go. And you can return to that place. You can reread those details, that description of that environment, and it will make you feel more at home in yourself. But that's the beauty of the imagination. That's the beauty of self-seduction, is that in the imagination, everything is possible. In a self-made world, there are no bounds. There are no limitations. The body has no limitations. Creativity, the creativity necessary to create these worlds, is also, according to research, and I've said this in another video, this imagination required to create fake worlds, illusory worlds, lies, you could say. That creativity also helps us in the real world. It helps us to solve problems. It helps us to think critically. So before you say that I'm just crazy and I want to live in a fantasy world, these are skills. Creating paracosms as a child is also a sign of intelligence. Another thing I want to really harp on is the role of isolation. These worlds, self-made and self-nourished, as Anais Nin would say, they can be full of ghosts and monsters. The childhood is an exception, I think, because these are formative years. But if you keep yourself within these places for too long, it's dangerous. And it produces inertia in a person. It makes someone socially inept. You turn into someone who's evasive, a hermit. I don't want that either. I'd like to bring my fantasy into the world. I'd like to share my fantasy. This is like a two-part video. You have to go from the self back into the world again. And whenever I was watching an episode of this old show that used to be on Netflix, it was about like all the best designers in the world, they had their own episode. And as Devlin had her episode, and I have always, I have looked up to her ever since I watched that episode. I think she's brilliant as a set designer and a creative director. But she did this set for U2, where the set was from the self into the world, and this was represented by like a circle and a square and like a bridge in between those two things. And I think that's a perfect way to kind of visualize and symbolize how you can't just stay here. When we fall in love with the beauty of the world, I believe that we are also falling in love with ourselves. The worst kind of isolation is to go out into the world and never see yourself. That is not an isolation we want. The type of isolation I want in the world is to see myself everywhere. Is to always know that I am within my own world at all times. And I know this all sounds kind of narcissistic, okay? That it's like you could only go out into the world if you saw yourself there. But I don't think that's so bad of a thing. We need a little bit of ourselves to entice us out of our dwellings, out of our self-isolation. You know, you need to relate to somebody, right? You need to look at the peony or the lily or a certain type of car or a work of art in the museum, and you have to see yourself there, or the world becomes foreign to you and unhospitable, dangerous even, foreign. You don't want that feeling. Self-seduction out in the world is looking for yourself out there, finding refuge in what would be a foreign place and seeing yourself there, and also falling in love with that world, falling in love with things that you never knew about yourself. That is a really, really important thing that I literally just thought of now. Like, when you are out in the world, you're, let's say, talking to a stranger, or you are in an environment you've never been in a country you've never been in, okay? What you don't know is that what was foreign to you, what you think is so separate from you, what you think is nothing like you, there's actually a piece of you in there. Whenever I moved to the island, I moved to Hawaii, okay, as an example. When I got there, I thought, this is the last place on earth I would ever want to be. And I rejected that place. And how do you think I felt there? For a long time, I thought, I am miserable. I'm depressed. I'm sad. I cried all the time. And so I isolated. It took finding somebody from that culture and friends and enjoying time with them to understand that I was not so separate from that place as I thought. That there were things that I could empathize with. That there was romantic parts of the Polynesian culture that I never knew about and never knew I could empathize with. Like the exchanging of breath, for example. People in Hawaii exchange breath whenever they greet one another. They don't shake hands, right? And I thought, hell yeah. I like that. I love that. That feels like something I am discovering about myself. You know, if I would have stayed in my isolation, if I would have stayed in my world, self-contained and ignorant, then I would have never seen that aspect of myself in that culture, in that place. This is what I mean. Even in the places that seem the furthest away from you, there is a little piece of you in there. And it reminds me of Alan Watts, for example, where he says, you are the universe experiencing itself. There are so many ways I can expound on that, but that is what you're doing. You are the universe and the person who observes it. That is why you can find yourself in it, because it is you. You're going out into a sphere, into a domain that feels almost treacherous because it seems to be so different from you. And what you don't know is that it's also you. just a facet that you don't know about yourself yet. That's why I say that self-seduction is also about understanding yourself, knowing who you are, learning about yourself, self-actualization, self-fulfillment, as well as isolation, self-containment. Self-seduction is just as much about solitude and the fecundity of your imagination in that space, in that sacred, locked away world that you've created, the paracosm, right? It's just as much about that as it is the real world. And it is about finding yourself out there, the courage that you have to find yourself out there. And that is how we are able to empathize with others. And we're able to love other people. We're able to make friends and able to unite groups of people into states, countries, tribes. There's a common thread. And it's like funny that I use that, like the word thread. Anaïs in House of Incest. I think I've mentioned this prose poem like in every single video that I've done, like the past 3 videos. I don't care. She talks about Ariadne's golden thread and how she throws it behind her so that she'll always be able to trace herself back to her lies, to this paracosm, right? That she created for herself. And I think that I could reverse that, and that thread could be thrown forward, and that you are actually out there too. And it's not a lie. It's actually the thread, the persistent pattern of you and your likeness in other people, in other cultures, in other perspectives. So I think it can be symbolic in both of those ways. To circle back to what I said in the beginning of the video, I'm the kind of person that does not want to accept reality, that does not want to move from this spot. Because I like being here. I like being in my own world. I like the paracosm that I've created for myself. I like the same, what is considered the same. But self-seduction is just as much about keeping yourself here as it is learning about and embracing the other, what is not you. And that's something that I have to learn. It's something that I hope you guys learn, that you guys become proficient at. Because it's hard for me, because you get into this like habit of, mining yourself all day long of like, what else can I find in here? But the truth is that like, you can only get so far here without getting resources from out there, out in the world, out in something other than yourself. That's why whenever you stay within, and you stay in your isolation and your solitude, it's regressive. It's like you're consuming. It's like a self-cannibalism, because you just keep rehashing the same thing over and over and over again until you have nothing left, and it's just this deadbeat echo of something that used to mean more to you, and now you're just using it almost out of convenience, and that's the last thing you want. That's the last thing you want in your solitude and isolation is convenience. It's supposed to be about discovery. So, all right. I think I've talked enough about this today, but that is the guide for self-seduction. I have many other videos about it. If you'd like to watch, I'll leave a card up above if you want to see the other ones. Self-seduction is simply the journey within and then back out. The two worlds, the world of the paracosm and the world of reality. You're shifting in between those two things. I hope you found that helpful. I hope you found this video enlightening to some stretch. I tried to speak a little bit more off the top of my head in this video, and I hope it came out okay. All right, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please do not forget to like and subscribe. Leave a comment. Let me know how I did. Let me know how you're doing. Share this video if you think this information would be inspiring to another person or helpful. And I'll see you guys next week. Bye.